During the high winds that we've had, my umbrella has fallen over and it has landed on our outside table that has got a glass top, and it looks like it's smashed. Okay, let's see what the damage is. Definitely looks like it's smashed. Yeah, it's totally damaged. It's smashed to pieces. Let's clean it up first and then I'll work out what I'm going to do. Let's see how much it costs online to buy a new glass tabletop. Well, that's not too bad, that's not too expensive, but it's not the correct size. Let's have another look. £93, that's way too much. £24, that's better, but they don't have the measurements I need. £74.52, that's way too expensive, I can't afford that. So I think it's time to think about a cheaper alternative that will look equally as good, if not better. So as you can see, that outside tabletop has had it. So what I'm going to do is to try and sort it out with some pallet wood. So I've got these pallet wood strips that I'm going to use. I think I'll probably use that one on the outside and then that one to sort of go across. But the only problem is the inside one is slightly deeper. So I've just got to sort it out. Actually, what do I do? How do I do it? I think what I'll do is make sure the top, or what is going to be the top, is level and flush. So I'll try it that way. So let's see how it goes. So I think it's time to make a wooden tabletop. Let's make it out of some old pallet wood that I've got. This is a pallet wood that I'm going to be using. I'm going to lay it out on the base of the table just to work out how much I'm going to need and then what sort of configuration I'm going to do to make sure it's strong enough. I think I'll have a bit on the end here and then the slats going across the other way. The only part I don't like is this bit here, but I'll sort that out as we go along. I'll see if I can hide the ridge bit in the middle and have nice square bits on the end. I'm now measuring the exact size that I need. I'm marking this up and making sure it's square. So I'm using a set square to make sure this is exactly at a 90-degree angle. Okay, now to cut the wood to size. I'm marking this out, then I'm cutting this with a circular saw. Great, they're all the same size. I'm measuring, marking and cutting. This old bit of pallet wood has been painted, but I'm going to be sanding it down anyway, so the paint will just be sanded off. Okay, that's the bits of wood cut now. I'm going to double check just to make sure these are all the correct size. Yep, that looks right. Now to measure and cut the end pieces of wood. That's one bit done. And then that's the other bit done. Great! Now all I've got to do is glue them all together. I'm going to be making biscuit joints for strength to hold all the wood together. I'm just going to measure out exactly where I'm going to put the biscuits. So I'm measuring 10 centimetres in from the ends of these bits of timber. Just to make it easier so I don't have to measure each bit of wood, I'm going to draw a line straight down across the wood, 10 centimetres in from the end. I'm using my straight edge to get this in the correct position. Now I know exactly where I'm going to cut the holes using my biscuit cutter. I'm going to make sure the biscuit cutter is set exactly the right height that I need to take into account that I'm going to be sanding down each piece of wood so that the top is nice and smooth. I've now got the correct height adjusted on my biscuit cutter, and then I'm going to tighten this and make sure this is set in exactly the right position. I'm going to line this up with the lines that I've drawn here. Okay, that's the holes cut in this bit. I'm using a brush just to get all the sawdust out of the holes. On the two end pieces of wood, I'm going to be cutting holes only on one side, as the other side will be nice and flat and will be the outside edge of the tabletop. I'm then brushing the holes out to make sure there's no sawdust in them. Now it's time to lay them out in the correct position, ready for gluing. I'm going to mark up the outside bits of wood for where I want the biscuit joint to be cut. I'm going to be cutting biscuit joints here on this bit of wood and then on this other bit of wood. And then this other bit of wood will be butt up to here but glued strongly with biscuits. These are the biscuits I'm going to be using. I'm just going to check that these fit. Yes, these fit, they're all okay. I'm now going to glue this all together. I'm going to be using glue that is suitable for outside use. I'm making sure the glue goes into the joint where the biscuits are going to go. And then I'll slot the biscuits in and just put a little bit more glue on top, and then now it just slots together. I'm going to wipe away any excess glue, as this glue does not dry clear and it dries a bit shiny. Now I'm going to do the same with all the other bits of wood. Okay, that's all glued now. I'm going to push it up to this flat edge to make sure that it's exactly square. I'm going to strap this all together so it pulls all the bits of wood tightly together. And then I'm just tightening the straps and making sure that the bits of wood are pushed up against the flat edge. I'm going to bring this inside into the dry, as it's too cold outside and it will take the glue ages to dry. It's now dry and I've clamped this to my flat edge, and now what I'm going to do is to sand this down on this side to make sure it's all nice and flat and smooth. I'm using a 40 grit sandpaper on my belt sander. Right, let's check this is nice and flat and there's no gaps. There's still a bit of a gap here, so it needs a bit more sanding, just to make sure that it's nice and smooth and flat. That's good, there's no gaps now. Now it's time to mark and cut with my biscuit cutter. Great, that's done. Now I'm lining this up properly and cut with my biscuit cutter. And that's all the holes cut now. Now I'm just going to cut it onto the other bit of wood just on the other side. Okay, that's all the holes cut. Now it's time to glue this all together after I give it a little brush down so there's no sawdust left anywhere. There is a bit of a problem, as this bit of wood is not the same thickness as the middle bit. So I'm just going to turn this upside down to set it and glue it in this position. I've put the biscuits in and now it's ready for gluing. And then I'll push it into position and then glue the other side. It just needs a little bit of a tap with a mallet to square this up. I'm going to be using my ratchet straps again. It's bowing up a little bit here, so what I'm going to do is put some weight on it to keep it nice and flat. And I've also put my flat edge against it and then clamp this in the position just to keep it nice and flat. And then on the other side I've got another flat edge and some clamps. I've brought it into my shed just to dry. Okay, that's all dry now. Let's see if it's glued. I'm going to plane this down on the underneath just to get this all level and flat. I'm now going to be sanding this down with my belt sander using a 40 grit paper. I'm going across the grain just so this rips it down a bit quicker. It's taking quite a bit of sanding. But that looks about right. Great, now to sand the top. I'm sanding all the bits of paint off and bringing this back to the nice bare wood. I've changed the belt on my belt sander and I'm now using 120 grit paper just to get it smoother. I'm now sanding the edges. My belt sander tracking is broken. You can see the sanding belt wants to come off. Now I'm sanding the edges to make these nice and flat. All the edges are nice and flat now. I'm going to be using a 120 grit paper just to get it really smooth. And I'm sanding this down by hand. Turn the sandpaper to a 45-degree angle just to get a nice edge on the tabletop. I'm sanding the corners down as well, just so they're not too sharp. Great, that's all done. Now I'm brushing all the sawdust off again, and now it's time to seal it. I'm going to be using teak oil on the top. I'm putting this on with a cloth. So I'm going to pour this on top and then wiping it all over. Great, that looks good. It's made the wood grain pop out. Well, I've given this probably about 7 coats. I've left it probably about 6 to 8 hours between each coat. I made sure it's sort of touch dry before each coat. On top I used the teak oil, but underneath I used a cheaper decking oil, just so it doesn't rot. I put quite a bit of that on. It didn't come up as nice as the teak oil, but probably because I didn't sand it properly as well underneath. But the top looks the best. So let's go and see what it looks like. Well, that's another job done, and it didn't cost me a lot as I had the bits of old pallet wood and the teak oil. It's probably cost me about £2 in teak oil and sanding belts and a bit of glue. Thanks for watching, and remember to subscribe for some more videos.